Hi everyone. Tonight we're supposed to be making a video about chapter 28 regarding progressivism and the Republican Roosevelts, years 1901 to 1912. My book's right there, in case you were wondering. Originally, I was going to talk about the women's role in progressivism. However, I was flipping through the chapter trying to find information and just going through the other information to see if I wanted to cover anything else, and I found the section on Muckrakers, which I remember hearing about them in 7th grade in my second year of studying American history and thinking, gosh, they just sounded terrible. They sound like the typical people that, you know, the magazines these days and the newspapers have become, well, it's mainly magazines, let's face it. You know, getting all the dirt that is happening in the country and putting it all together and selling it for the public interest. And that's basically what they did back then as well. Would just like to point out that they started in 1902. And they weren't labeled as Muckrakers until 1906, which I didn't know that. I assumed they just came with the title. But no, Teddy Roosevelt gave them that name, which I think it labels them so badly, and I think they did a better job. Well, not necessarily a better job. I view them much better than I do the people today of the magazines. Today in the magazines they talk about, you know, celebrities. I guess princes in Europe are considered celebrities. Occasionally they'll talk about senators that have done something wrong. But mainly it's people in movies, musicians, those kinds of people where they dig up dirt about them, they get into their personal lives, and they expose different facts and horrifying figures, stuff like that. Like, oh, this person named their baby Tennessee. Nice Witherspoon. Or worse stuff like that. They could just get into people's lives. And there really is no point to it. They offer nothing important for the human mind, and they offer no real information that's worth knowing. However, the Muckrakers, they exposed the problems of society with kind of a vengeance. There was one woman, Ida Tarbell, I spelled it wrong, my notebook, Ida Tarbell, who wrote an expose about the Standard Oil Company because her father had been cheated by them. One, she's a woman, so see the connection with women's roles in progressivism. And she had facts to support her expose. It wasn't just her opinion about the company. She had facts to back it up. She knew what she was talking about, and she had a personal interest in exposing them, which I thought was really interesting, because usually people are just trying to do this for money. She probably was doing it for the money, but also had another reason behind it. Then there was another guy named Lincoln Stephens? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, who wrote a series of articles called The Shame of the Cities. And he unmasked the alliance between big business and municipal government. Who does that? Magazines these days don't do stuff like that. They don't unmask and show that, you know, the government has a secret alliance with something like this. I find it fascinating that these magazines, McClure's, Cosmopolitan, Collier's, and Everybody's, they all started out exposing the problems of society like child labor, trafficking women, the situation of blacks in America, which 90% were still in the South and 1/3 of them were illiterate. That is, I studied civil rights for 4 weeks, and that's just background for me. That's so sad. Our poor country. That's a terrible situation, but they exposed that fact. I think, what else did I do? Industrial accidents. That was another one that they talked about, which was pretty important back then. The child labor and the industrial accidents, those are two really key things, especially since they were going through an industrial era at this point. And then, of course, the women got involved in the child labor stuff and said that you shouldn't do that, and tried to give people shorter days, or a more reasonable day, I guess you could say. So they talked about important issues. I remember, was it Ishan that made the comment? I think it was Ishan that made the comment a couple of days ago that the progressives did not offer solutions. And I think, I'm not sure, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think you were talking about the Muckrakers, because despite the fact they exposed so much about the government, there was this guy who said that 75 out of 90 of the senators were representing the big businesses and the railroads and the trusts. I think that's it. They exposed a lot about the government and life, industrial life in America. However, they did not provide solutions. And I think that's what you were talking about, because they relied on, I think the book said they relied on the public to think of the solutions. They offered them the information. It's kind of, why am I connecting it? What's the point of school? We were just talking today about creativity, and how we're trying to prepare for jobs that haven't even been invented yet. What are we doing? The school and Mr. Squires are giving us information, and we have to do with it what we will. That's kind of what the Muckrakers are doing. Similar. They're giving the public this information, often factual information, legitimate, important stuff that you should know, and telling them this isn't very good. And they're alerting the public conscience, and they're letting the public decide what should be done, which I think is pretty cool. And there's a lot of connections there, like I said, with our history class, with school in general. And another connection, Mr. Munn. Another connection was what Mr. Squires said, I think 2 days ago in class. He said that improve, don't change, but always improve. I think he was quoting someone. And I think that's what the Muckrakers were trying to do. They didn't offer solutions for improvement. However, they wanted to cleanse, I think is the word the book uses. They wanted to cleanse capitalism. They wanted to get rid of all of the problems and bad things that had happened during the industrial progress that America had made. They wanted to cleanse all that. They wanted to fix the problems. They wanted the public to fix the problems, granted. They didn't want to uproot it and throw it away. They just wanted to make it better. Which, back to the thing about the word Muckrakers. It sounds so terrible and negative, and you think it and you're like, not a good word. However, they were trying, from what the book says and from what I can tell, they sound like they were trying to do something important. They sounded like they were trying to get information out to the people so that the people could know what was going on in the country, and then find a solution for how to fix the problems. Because there were quite a few, and anytime I think a country is going through a big change like industrialism, problems are going to arise because they're trying to adapt to a new environment. I think they were doing something good. I don't think they're necessarily bad. But thank you, Teddy Roosevelt, for giving them that horrible name that makes 7th graders like me cringe when they hear it. But that's my view on it. I don't think they're as bad as the name suggests. Thanks.